Hi everyone, welcome back to Cgse Maths. Today we are going to go through June 2019 Higher Paper 1, which means that we're not going to use the calculator. This video is only going to go through the first half of the paper, which is question 1 to question 14, and our next video is going to carry on from question 15 to question 27. As I go along these questions, I would either recommend you to print out these papers to take some notes as I go along the questions, or have some sort of paper in front of you so you can take some notes. Question 1 is a similar shape question from 6 to y and 10 to 15. The question is asking us to find out the value of y. So I know that from 10 to 15, I'm going to have to times 10 by 1.5. That would mean that I'm going to have to do the same scale for this section to find out what y is going to be. So it's going to be 1.5. So we're doing 6 times 1.5, and that's going to be 9. So this is how I get full mark from this question. Question number 2 is asking us to work out the value of 1, 2 out of 3 squared. So what I would do straight away with these type of questions is that I would just write it down as an improper fraction first. So I would do 3 times 1 is 3 plus the 2 is 5. So that's going to be 5 out of 3 squared. Remember, this would mean that it's going to be 5 out of 3 times 5 out of 3. So you're squaring 5 and squaring 3. That's 25 out of 9. We'll then write it down as a mixed number, so it's going to be 9. 2 times 9 is going to give us 18, plus the 7 is going to be 25. So this is how I get full marks from this question. Question number 3, work out the arc length in meters of a semicircle of radius 6 meters. We are going to need to visualize what a semicircle is. Let me just draw it again properly. So this is going to be our semicircle. We know that the radius is going to be 6 meters. This is the exact same thing as finding the circumference of a circle really, but then you're just looking for half of that. So the circumference of a circle is pi times the diameter, or you can just remember it as 2 times pi times the radius, because 2 times radius is going to give you diameter. So if the radius is 6, the diameter is going to be 12. So I'm going to have to do pi times 12. That will give me 12 pi. But remember, I'm going to look for the semicircle. So this is the circumference of the whole circle, so I'm going to have to halve this. So 12 divided by 2 is going to give you 12 pi, divided by 2 is going to give you 6 pi, so that is going to be 6 pi. So please remember that you're not going to be choosing 12 pi, because that is the circumference of the circle. You're looking for a semicircle, you're going to have to halve it. And this is how you get full marks from this question. Right, question number 4, circle the fraction that is equivalent to 4.625. We should all know that 4.625 is the exact same thing as 4625 out of 1,000. Looking at your options, you're going to make your denominator to be either 8 or 4. So that means if I write it down there here, that's out of 1,000. In order for me to make it 4, that would mean that I need to divide it by 250. So if I divide it by 250, it will exactly divide into 1,000, but it wouldn't divide into 4.625. So that means out of 4 options are going to be out of the equation. Okay, so we can think about dividing this with 125, which makes it 8. So the option is going to be either this or this. Then you need to think about when you divide this by 125, you can just divide it by 125, or you can think of it as the end number needs to times with 5 to give you something to do with 5. So 9 times 5 is going to give you 45, that is correct, and 7 times 5 is going to give you 35. So either or could be the possibility. So if you could do 4.625 and you divide it by 125, you're going to find out that your answer is going to be 37 out of 8. So this is how you get full marks from this question. Right, question 5a is asking us to write down 0.00097 in standard form. We need to remember that standard form has to be written down in between 1 to 10. So it's going to have to be 9.7. So it's going to be 9.7 times. Now we're going to quickly have a look at how many steps we took. 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. So that's going to be 10 to the power of negative 4 as it is before the number. So we've got 3 times 10 to the power of 5 divided by 4 times 10 to the power of 3. I usually prefer to write these down as 3 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros divided by 4 with 3 zeros. I'm going to use a different color to show you how I simplify. Divided by 10, divided by 10, divided by 10, so these simplify. That's going to be 300 divided by 4. Remember, when you're dividing anything by 4, you halve it and halve it again. 300 divided by 2 is going to be 150. Half of that is going to be 75. The question is asking you to write it down as an ordinary number, so it's going to be 75. If it was asking you to write it down as a standard form, then it would be 7.5 times 10 to the power of 1. But we're going to leave it at 75 as the question is asking it for an ordinary number. And this is how we get full marks from this question. Right, question number 6 is a slightly complicated probability question, so that's why I'm going to be taking a slow approach to this question and just break it down for you. It says Anna plays a game with an ordinary fair dice. That would mean that the outcomes we can have are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. If she rolls 1, she wins. If she rolls 2 or 3, she loses. If she rolls 4, 5 or 6, she rolls again. So if she rolls 4, 5, 6 and rolls again, and if she ends up with an odd number, she's going to win. If she rolls an even number, she's going to lose the game. So when you look at the information given to you to complete the probability tree diagram, this is given to you as a half. But we did say that our outcome is going to be out of 6. So if I was to write this down as out of 6, this was originally 3 out of 6. Okay, and for us to end up with a 1 from a fair dice, it's going to be 1 out of 6. And remember, probability adds up to 6 out of 6 for it to give you 1. So you've got 3 out of 6, 1 out of 6, that's 4 out of 6. And you've got 2 outcomes here. That's going to be 2 out of 6. Okay. Now, once we get to this point, we are then going to think about odds and evens. This only happens if she was to end up with 4, 5 or 6. She would roll again. So if you think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there are 1, 2, 3 out of 6 even, and 1, 2, 3 out of 6 odd possibilities. So that's going to be 3 out of 6, 3 out of 6. Or some of you might prefer to write this down as half and half. Okay, you can simplify them, that's absolutely fine. You could write this down as half. You could write this down as 1 out of 3 if you like. Now, this is how you complete the table, and this is how you get 2 marks from the table. So this is how you get full marks from this section. For the second section, we need to think about it, and we need to just quickly read the question. Is Anna more likely to win or lose the game? So we need to find out 2 different probabilities. We need to find out the probability of her winning and the probability of her losing. So she would win if she scores a 1, or she would win if she scores 4, 5 or 6, and because she would have to carry on, she'd roll again, an odd number, which is going to be 1 out of 2, or you can just use 3 out of 6. So if she wins the game, she'd have 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 2 and 1 out of 2. This gives us 1 out of 6 plus 1 out of 4. Now, remember, when I'm going to add these fractions, I'm going to have to make sure that they're the same denominator. So I'm going to times this by 2 and times this by 3. I'm making my denominator to be 12. 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 1 is 3. So that's 5 out of 12 chance for her to win. Okay. Now, if she was to lose this game, remember probability adds up to 1. If 5 out of 12 is the possibility of her winning, then 7 out of 12 is going to be the possibility of her losing, because 5 out of 12 and 7 out of 12 adds to 1. So this would mean that she is more likely to lose the game. And that's how you can conclude this and get full marks from this question. Right, question number 7. 3 friends arrive at a party. their arrival increases the number of people at the party by 20%. In total, how many people are now at the party? Right, so this means that I'm just going to do a little diagram here, guys. So there was 100%. There's now 20% added to your 100%. And this 20% increased the number by 3. So if each 20% is 3, there are 5 lots of 20% for the 100%. So if I do 5 times 3 here, that would mean that originally they had 15 people. Now it increased by 3. The total amount of people, which is going to be, because we now have 120%, is going to be 15 plus 3, that is 18. So we have 18 people are now at the party. And this is how I get full marks from this question. Right, question 8, work out the value of, so we've got 3 to the 12 divided by 3 to the 5, and then we're going to divide that with 3 to the 2 times 3 to the 1. Remember, if there is no power, guys, that means there is 1. So that number is there, it's invisible. We don't really tend to write it down. 3 to the 12 divided by 3 to the 5. Remember, if you've got the same base and you're dividing them, you're gonna decrease the power, so you're just going to take the powers away. So it's 3 to the 12, 3 to the 5, it's divided, so 12 take away 5, 3 to the 7, divided by 3 to the 2 times 3 to the 1 is going to be 2 plus 1 is going to be 3. That's going to be 3 to the 3. So now again, we're dividing it with, we have the same base, we're going to take the powers away, so that's going to be 7 take away 3 is 4. But I'm not going to leave this question as it is and just write down 3 to the 4 because I would only get 2 marks from it if I do that. It's asking me to find out the value of this number. So that would mean I'm going to have to do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27, 27 times 3 is going to be 81, and that is the value of this calculation. So it's going to be 81. I'm not going to leave it as 3 to the 4. I'm going to have to find out the value of it because that's what the question is asking you to find out. And this is how you get full marks from this question. Right, question number 9. A shaded semicircle is inside a circle as shown here. So we've got, this is not drawn accurately, guys, so you're not going to just try and measure stuff and find out some answers. The radius of the circle is 10 centimeters as shown here, and the diameter of the semicircle is 8 centimeters as shown here. How many times bigger is the unshaded area than the shaded area? So we're going to have to find out the shaded area first, unshaded area, and we'll find out how many times it is bigger than the other one. So the circle is, if I was to just find out the area of the circle, it's going to be, so the radius is 10, so area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. It's going to be pi times 10 squared. 10 squared is 100, so that's going to be 100 pi centimeters squared for the whole circle. And if I find out the area of the semicircle, which was, the diameter is 8, so my radius is going to be 4, pi times the radius squared. I'm going to divide it by 2 because I'm trying to find out the semicircle, guys, so remember that. It's going to be pi times 4 squared divided by 2. 4 squared is going to be 16, 16 pi, and I'll half 16 pi. Let me just write it down, 16 pi, and we'll half it. That's going to be 8 pi centimeters squared. Now, this is the shaded area, and we are going to find out the unshaded area to see how many times bigger it is. So unshaded area, I'm just going to write it down here. Unshaded is 100 pi take away 8 pi. So that is going to be 92 pi is the unshaded area. So I now know that unshaded area is 92 pi and the shaded area is 8 pi. So you need to think of it as this way. You're doing from 8 pi, I'm going to times it with something to go up to 92 pi. So if I was to divide 92 pi with 8 pi, or you can just think of it as 92 divided by 8 because the pi's are going to simplify. So if I do 92 pi divided by 8 pi, that will give me the scale that I need to times it by. So that just shows me how many times bigger it is. If I just simplify the pi's, you can just halve it. That gives you 46 out of 4. half it again gives you 23 out of 2. 23 out of 2 is the same thing as, you can just think of it as half of 20 and half of 3. Half of 20 is 10, half of 3 is 1.5. Both of them together is going to be 11.5 times bigger. And this is how you get full marks from this question. Question number 10 gives us a formula. So we've got n is equal to 60 out of t. N is the number of items made in 1 hour by a machine, and t is the time it takes to make one item. So on the grid below, draw the graph of n is equal to 60 out of t for values of t from 1 to 4. So that would mean t 1 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll find out n. So we are going to be substituting 1 into t. So that's going to be 60 out of 1 is 60. 60 divided by 2 is going to be 30. 60 divided by 3 is going to be 20. I'm just going to try and make this some shape. And 60 divided by 4 is going to be 15. So I am going to plot this on my graph. So when t was 1, my n was 60, so it's going to be here. When t was 2, my n was 30. When t was 3, when t was 3, your n was 20. And when t was 4, n was 15, which is going to be somewhere right in there. And I'm going to be drawing this. It's something like this. And the second question says the machine takes 3 minutes 30 seconds to make one item. Use your graph to estimate the number of... Okay, I'm just going to use a different color pen for this. It's going to be somewhere in between 3 and 4. It's going to be somewhere there, 3.5 minutes. And if I go along, it's around there. That looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 4, 6. It is around 17. So that's going to be 17 items. And this is how you get full marks from this question. Right, question 11 is a ratio question. It says Ed and Faye shared £330 in the ratio of 7 to 4. Ed gives Faye some of his money and Faye now has the same amount as Ed. Okay. How much does Ed give away? All right, let's have a look at this. So we know that, let's quickly find out how much they have to start with. So I know that the ratio is going to be 7 to 4. That means this is divided into 11 equal parts. 7 plus 4 is 11. So if I do £330 divided by 11, that's going to give me 30 for each part of the ratio. So Ed to Faye was 7 to 4. We're going to times both sides with £30 to find out what they had. So 7 times 3 is 21. With 0, that's 210. 120. Now we'll find out the difference between 210 and 120. And if I half the difference, that will be the amount given to the next person so that they have the equal amount. So £210. I'm showing this to my examiner so I can get full marks from my question. Take away 120 is going to be £90. And this £90 is the extra that Ed would have, but he needs to give some of that to the next person so then they can have the equal amount. So he needs to give half of this to the next person. So they need to share this extra amount. So 90 divided by 2 is going to give you £45, and £45 is going to be the amount that will be given to Faye so that they have the same amount. So here we go. This is how we get full marks from this question. Question 12, the next term of a sequence is made by adding the previous two terms. Which of these sequences follow this rule? Okay, let's quickly have a look at this. -9 plus 2 is going to give you -7. That's correct. Negative 7 plus the 2 is going to give you negative 5. That is correct. Negative 5 plus negative 7 is going to give you negative 12. That is correct. So that's fine. That is the answer then. So I don't have to do the rest. And here is how I get full marks from this question. Question 13. The triangular cross-section of a prism is an isosceles right-angle triangle, and this is why the two sides are going to be x and x, so these two sides are the same. It says the volume of prism is 102 centimeters cubed. Use approximations to estimate the value of x. Since the question is asking me to use approximations for our papers, we need to write them down to one significant figure. Okay, so this would mean that we're estimating. Approximations and estimations, we're estimating it by approximating. So it's going to be rounding to one significant figure. 8.14 is going to be 8 centimeters, and 102 is going to be 100 centimeters cubed. When I'm trying to find out area of a triangular cross section prism, I'm going to have to find out the area of the face and times it by the depth, which is going to be 8. Remember, area of a triangle is going to be x times x, base times height, divided by 2. So that's going to be x squared out of 2 is your area of this triangle. And this multiplied with 8 is going to give us the volume, because it's been repeated 8 times. And that is going to be this. So we can write it down as 8x squared out of 2. So that is 4x squared centimeters cubed. So 4x squared is the same thing as 100. So this is the volume that is equating to this. So I'm going to have to solve it as solving an equation. So it's going to be dividing both sides by 4. So that's going to give you x squared is going to be 25. We'll need to square root both sides. X therefore is going to be positive or negative 5. But since we're looking for a length, we can't have a negative length. So our answer is going to be 5 centimeters for x. And this is how I get full marks from this question. Question number 14, which is our last question for this video. Here's a quadrilateral. That means, okay, 4-sided shape, quad means 4, and interior angles will give us 360. A is 90, so I'm just going to quickly write this down. This is going to be 90 degrees. And A to B is 5 to 3. So if A was 90, I can then find out what B is, right? And they're asking me to show that B is going to be the exact same thing as X. Okay, let's quickly find out what B is. 5 to 90, I'm going to have to times 5 by 18 to get to 90. So I'm going to have to do the same thing. So if I write it down up here, A to B is 5 to 3. This is 90 degrees. I will have to times this by 18. I will have to times this by 18. Therefore, 18, 30, 54. This means B is going to be 54. So if A plus B plus Y plus X would give me 360 degrees, A plus B plus Y plus X should give me 360 degrees. A is 90, B is 54, then we've got Y, then we've got X. That is 360. 90 plus 54 is going to give us 144. Plus y plus x is equal to 360. So we're going to be solving an equation here. So we're going to have to do 360 take away 144. We'll take 144 away from both sides. That would mean y plus x is going to be 10, 6, 216. So y plus x needs to be 216. And we know the ratio of x to y is going to be 1 to 3. So x to y is 1 to 3. So 216 should be divided by 4 so that we can find out what one part of the ratio is. So 216 divided by 4 is going to give you 54. That means times it by 54 gives you 54. And then we've got times it by 3, 4, 12, 1, 6, 2 for this one. The question is asking us to show that B is going to be the same as X, and B is equal to 54, X is equal to 54. Therefore, remember these 3 dots in maths means therefore B is the same as X. And this is how you get full marks from this question. Thank you very much for watching the video, guys, and make sure you follow on for the second part of the paper and take some notes as you go along. Good luck with your exams and see you in the next video.